Hi, good afternoon. Joe here at Willie Cottage. What a calamity. I've been trying to get online for the last 15-20 minutes and I couldn't get on. Couldn't get on at all. So, a bit of a change of plans today. I've been running around like a lunatic. It's been one of those weeks where I've just not stopped. And no matter how much I try and get that washing pile down, it's ever growing. Honestly, there's only two of us in the house and it seems like I'm forever doing washing. Oh, nice cup of coffee. So, today, I grabbed a couple. Now I do have a pretty decent collection of reference books, and I think they're a really good resource to have at hand. I have done a reference book, a book type of review last year it was. So there is a video on my timelines from last summer where I did the last lot with the collection that I had then, but it's definitely got a little bit bigger since that as well. Especially I've been putting in knitting pattern books to my collection at the same time, and the availability to be able to get a hold of new books that I never had or couldn't get a hold of over the last few years. There's a couple that I am searching for. I don't know where the heck they've gone, but I've got the field guide book to fleece, breed studies, and that's a good one to have if you're going to wool shows that have the sheep there and you want to reference them. It's got your basic rudimentaries of information on them. I would definitely say that book needs to be rewritten and re-edited again. I find it quite a bit basic in its, I mean, really, you only need basic information to get you going anyhow. But I do find as a reference book, it hasn't got a lot of information. And I've got it in my mind that one day I'd love to write a book where I include in the breed study what it actually is capable of creating, whether you can use it for fleece, whether you can use the fleece for felting with, as well as knitting with, what it's like with samples and what it would look like if you wove with it. And it's one of those things, maybe from a pension plan, I'll eventually collect a sample of all different breeds that I can get a hold of throughout the country, put a search out there and maybe come up with something like that. But yeah, I do get a lot of people message me and say, oh, can I use this wool for felting with? And I'm not a felter. I know how to felt and I know how to advise people, but sometimes there's breeds that I haven't even tried and I wouldn't know unless I was given a sample of it as to whether it would actually felt or work or what it would look like felted. I mean, everyone does merino and Shetland, and there's that I think it's German, it begins with a B, I can't remember it, not off the top of my head. Do you know, I've had one of those, honestly, I've been running around like a blue-ass fly all morning. And I had to get listings done this morning, and then I had to run out the house. I had to go and get my brackets and my shelves for doing over in that spot next week. Well, I'll be doing it tomorrow because he's back at work. So yeah, so I'm a bit rushed. I'm still out of breath from running up and down the stairs. The dog's chasing me. They've tried to kill me on the stairs 3 times today. So yeah, I do find that there's a limited amount of information out there, and it'd really be great if I could come up with some sort of book or collaborate with other people that have the breeds and then put their input into it and the photos and everything else, and then do a collective of, hiya Mary, do a collective of a group of crafters that can say, right, I can get a hold of this breed and I can get a hold of that breed, but I've never tried this one. And then somebody's saying, well, I use that one and I've got a hobby flock of them. I'll send you a sample and you can have a see what it does. And to say, like merino, that's everyone's go-to merino. And it's brilliant for wet felting and for needle felting. But are there not other breeds out there that can do wet felting with them as well? Like, I mean, I would say that I might even have to try it actually. I mean, I know alpaca you can wet felt with, and I know llama you can wet felt with, but can you wet felt with BFL? Can you wet felt with Shetland? I don't know. So really great if I could maybe just start one of those like secret diaries of those private projects and take photographs and print them off and get them to one side and print it all, start writing up and typing up what information I can glean, and then start asking people around and then create a cooperative and put it together as one book, so that it's a one a go-to guide for all the fibre crafts. It's an ambition of mine, punching above my belt as usual, but I've not found anything like that that references everything that this one sheep breed can do. So yeah, that's what I'd like to do. No, I don't know, I've said it. There was 4 in here, there's now 3, so they've obviously gone off to go and start making notes to do the exact same idea. So I thought, I grabbed a couple of my books that I had up on my shelf just to give ideas for people, because obviously I'm doing these back to basic studies at the moment, these back to basic tutorials on, I'll just stick that down there, on getting started on the drop spindle and getting started on the spinning wheel, which I did last week. And I thought, well, in conjunction with that, because the way things are at the moment, the price of bills going up, sometimes you've got a bit of birthday money and grabbing a book that you think will come in really handy to you for the month when you can't afford to pay for your internet, and you're sat for 3 weeks until the other half's got his wages coming in, because hey, we've all been there. There's nothing to be ashamed about. There are months when you just can't afford it, and when you're like that and you're a bit down, having a couple of books to hand so you can sit, especially when you're learning, so you can sit and just read and feel inspired, or just to learn something as well. So this is one of the books that I actually, before I go any further, this one, if Bridie's around, don't know, this one is one that I found through Bridie. She's got a shop down in Horwich called Fine Yarns, and I don't know if she's got any of these copies left, but if you get in touch, you can find Bridie on Instagram under the account Fine Yarns, FINEYARNS, and see if she does do books in her shop. She does all sorts of crafts in there, but it's mainly all wool. And it's this book here, and it's yarn spinning with a modern twist: how to create your own gorgeous yarns using drop spindles. So which is probably the count, that if you started off with a drop spindle and your budget's just not going to expand to a spinning wheel yet, don't worry. There are things out there, whether you go on YouTube and learn from others, but then you're only limited to how much information you can get from other people, because generally there's not a lot of people that do any more than 1, maybe 2 videos on drop spinning, apart from, is it up there, Ashley Martineau. Ashley Martineau, when she first started on YouTube, started off on the drop spindle, and she's one of the very few that still have quite a few drop spindle videos on her YouTube channel. And I have got a couple of her books as well. I don't even know if I've got them up here with me. I've got loads downstairs on the shelf in the back room. I've got loads downstairs on the shelf next to my chair. I've been moving bits and pieces around in this room to make way for this monster. So bits and pieces got scattered around the place, but once I get my new shelves up, I'll be able to find what it is that I'm looking for. But this book has got some really good details, different types of information on drop spindles, the different types of drop spindles that you can buy, the anatomy of a drop spindle, how to put colours and things together, so you like your colour theory, using a diz, she's even showing a drum carder, but how many people that have got drop spindle have got drum carders? I would say it's more than likely that you've got a blending board to start with. But yeah, so she shows you how to put colours together on a drum carder and how to blend them and things like that. I think that's a little bit floppy, that one, but what would I know? And then spinning from Rolex as well. So there's some really, really good pictures in there, and diagrams, and lots of information, lots of beginning information of technology, technical aspects of things, how to wind your wheel. It's called Women Vanessa Crowing, Croeninning. I'm positive she's an American lady, and I paid, well, the book's $14.99 in America. It's $23.95 in America. Not sorry, $14.99 in UK, $23.95 in the US, and in Canada it's $28.95. But she just says on the back of it, you want to spin your own beautiful yarn, expert spinner Vanessa Crowing shows you how in this easy introduction spinning with a drop spindle. Learn to clean and prepare your fleece for spinning, how to card and blend colours, make rolags and bats, and transform your fleece into wonderful lengths of scrumptious yarn. Choose the colours and thickness, use dye, add beads, sequins, other embellishments to create your own unique yarns. Spinning with a drop spindle isn't just fun, it's amazingly relaxing, highly creative too, so be inspired by this wonderful craft and make your own, use your own masterpieces yarns to take with your knitting, crochet, felting and weave it to a whole new level. So it is a really, for very, very beginners that are starting off on a drop spindle, to be fair, even people that are going straight to a spinning wheel, because now and again you do feel the urge to pick up your drop spindle, but then you can see the beads on the front of that, which is something I've never experimented with on a drop spindle before. But there's loads of ideas, lots of information in there for such a small book. And the fact that you've got your fleece preparation, which is one of the first things that everyone wants to have a dabble of. And I know my first attempts at washing fleece were absolutely disastrous. She even shows you how you can make your own niddy noddy using some pieces of dowling and some cop hooks. So it honestly, it's a really, really, really good handy book to have for your very first. It touches the beginnings of all the aspects of finding your fleece, to dyeing, to spinning it. And it's definitely a one to go for, I would say. But as I say, go and find yarn, find yarns, and talk to Bridie on Instagram. And if she's got the books in stock, then she'll let you know, or she may need to order some in. But yeah, definitely give that one a go. So what's the next one I've got? This one is the Spinner's Book of Fleece, breed by breed guide to choosing and spinning the perfect for every purpose. So this one here, it's written by Beth Smith and it's by Storybooks, and it comes under the category of crafts, fibre arts. So it says it's an essential spinners of all levels. The sheep by sheep guide provides fleece profiles of 19 breeds, describes the different spinning methods that produce yarn suitable for a wide range of projects, from lacy shawls to sturdy outerwear. You'll explore the basic characteristics of fleece, crimp structure, lock shape and relative fineness or coarseness, and learn how they affect the quality of the yarn you spin. Also included are instructions for proper cleaning and process techniques for different types of fleece and tips, successful tips for spinning. So that's another one. It's a nice book to flick through as well, which always makes a difference. There's nothing worse than finding a book that is so boring that you can't, you're like, okay, I found the information I want, I don't want to go any further, and I'm literally just going to look at it for that, and that's it. So yeah, it goes through behind the methods of fleece categories, so like from long wool, the down, long wool, fine wool, down type, and a multi-coat fibre. So she talks you through all that, the different types of measurements, the micron count and Bradford count. But generally people will actually think about the micron count, especially with merinos. Do you know, I had my hair cut last week. I've been out in the rain, absolutely pouring down, and the first thing I ever say is, it wasn't forecast rain. So I'm a little bit bedraggled today. Starting from wool to from scratch or to buy processed wool. So it talks about different breeds, goes on how to going by feeling what you should be looking for when it comes to buying your fleece. It tells you the parts of the different sections and what those parts of those fleeces will do for you. Because the best bit, the bit that I'm always looking for, especially with Shetland sheep, is the neck area, and I think just around about this and the soft chest as well, because it's the softest, finest parts. And up in Skye and out Hebrides, where they're famous for their lace knitting, that's what they do. They would actually comb and pluck the hair off the sheep around its neck and its softer areas to get the finest wool so they can make a bride's shawl. And the key with the bride's shawl is that once it's been knitted and been made, before it could be gifted to the bride at a wedding, if it could go through the wedding band that she's to be given by her future husband, and you could get that shawl all the way through, believe it or not, they could, because the wool was that fine. So it was like an old tradition. If you could spin and knit so fine that it would go through the band of the wedding band of the bride to be, then she could be given it as a gift. But yeah, so there you go. It's all myths and fables and all the rest of it. So yeah, so that's what I always look for when I buy a fleece. I usually take that bit off and save that to one side for myself, because I like to spin that. Just like I only like to buy shearling um, fleeces as well. I don't like to buy, personally, I don't like to buy fleeces that have been shorn 3 or 4 times over the years. I like the really new baby sheep for first time shearing, first clip is what I prefer. I just think it's such a softer, more delicate quality of wool. And not just that, when you do have coarser wools, then the shearling is going to be so much softer and downy in comparison to its mothers, that it's just going to be a lot more nicer to work with. But that's done. I don't like coarse wool. I don't like old wool. I don't want to be fighting with brambles for it. So I just think, right, if it's a really young one and it was born last year and you're just cutting it for the first time, then that's the one I want, because it's going to be a little bit more squishy than its mother. Different types of ways of cleaning, flick cards, hand cardings, different ways of processing, different types of drum carders that you can purchase, and your hackles and your combs. And then going in a bit more information about do's and don'ts of when you go to buy a do's and don'ts of when you go to buy a fleece, what you should be looking out for. Assessing the lock length, the touch and feel of it, the skirting of it, the digging deeper into the breed as well, looking for more information on it. Yeah, different types of fleece problems that you could have before you even start to wash it. Scurfing it, which is like a dandruffy type fibre, like is in the fleece, and I had that in a fleece a couple of weeks ago, and it wasn't pleasant, and I couldn't get it all out, and there was some parts that were actually hidden inside the clumps of the fibre that I didn't see until I started to card it, and it's like whitewash. It's like polystyrene balls when we were kids. Remember we used to go outside and rub up the side of the house, the big bricks off the washing machines in the packaging, and the snow would go everywhere and you couldn't get rid of it. Well, that's what scurf can end up like. You can get rid of it, but when you're not being paid for a job to do for somebody and you're doing it as a favour, then it's just not worth the hassle. I would rather be a couple 100 grams down than have something that's been contaminated with scuff, because it's really not pleasant. I mean, it's not nasty. It's literally just flakes of skin. It's a dandruff. Some fleeces may vary, have a tiny bit, so you might not even notice. Enough for you to notice. However, I say walk away from that fleece. Scurf is the most impossible to get rid of, and the tiny flakes want to remain glued to the fibre. Although you may be able to remove some if you comb the wool, you won't get it all out. So yeah, so there's loads of different ways, so lots of tips, getting your yarn to be perfect, how to knit with it, how to work with it, getting the right type of twists on your yarns, adjusting different whirls on your spinning wheel to get different types of ratios. So she goes into a lot more depth than your usual breed study book. I'm trying to get to the bit where she starts to talk a little bit about, touches on the subject of dyeing a little bit. Fine wools, goes on to a bond sheep. I've never heard of one of those before. A como, which is new to me. I've never heard of a como, but apparently it's a Corriedale crossed with a merino. You've got your Corriedale, your Ile-de-France, which I haven't seen that fibre up for sale for ages. And it's really lovely. I like the Ile-de-France. I used to be able to get that from Wing and Wool, but I don't know if I can still get it. Polworth, Polypay, which is Targhee and Dorset. Rambouillet, I love Rambouillet. When I dye it, oh bless me, when I dye with Rambouillet, it's got a very dusky colours to it. It takes dye really well, but it's got like a more dusky tones to it, and it is really, really pretty wool. But it's one of those rovers that never seems to sell that well for me. But it spins up so delightfully thin. It's really deceiving. But it's one of those that you can spin thin or thick without any problem. Romdales, Targhees, I think that's about it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So there's another 9 wools. They're from fine wool breeds that she talks about. It goes into a bit more information. Sampling different types. So she goes sample pictures of the breeds that she's had a go at and the different types of knits that she can get with them. So yeah, this is definitely a good one if you want to go as a beginner a little bit more in depth. You're not going to be covering all the breeds that you would do if you had the field guide book. Another book to go look for is the British Wools Fleece Guide book. They're usually, I think they're usually about 14-15 quid. You can get them from all of your wool suppliers. The British Wool Board book, it is, been written by them, and that's got a lot more breeds in there. You can actually go online and actually Google search it, and you can find the book and save it down to your computer, so you don't have to buy it if you don't want to. It's got like 600 and something pages. But if you don't want the book, you can actually get it like that, and I'm sure you can download it as a Kindle version. But suppliers, the Thresh and Barn, again, Ange at Weft Blown, all the usual prime suspects of UK suppliers, you were able to get the British Wool Breed book without a problem at all. I would have, if I'd have known what I know now, I wouldn't have bothered getting the British Field Guide. I mean, it's a lovely, nice little pocket-sized book, but it's not great. It's one of those books that I usually grab to hand when I have a customer on the phone, because it's usually just lying around somewhere. So at least I can quickly get off the information that they're looking for. Especially, I do get people phoning me saying, oh, I can get a hold of this fleece. Can you tell me about it? I'm like, well, you know where Google is. If you haven't got the books, then A, you shouldn't be buying fleeces if you don't know what it is that you're buying. Or B, go and look it up. Is it not easier just to do a Google search on a breed, find the information, rather than stopping me from what I'm doing and asking me to go and find it in a book? Do you know, some people... Yeah, so she goes on about different types of bit longer wools, like Kent Romneys, the Blueface Leicester, Downy type breeds as well. So she's got loads of those. How to use hand carders, the type of sampling wools that she gets from them. So like your thicker wools and your Arons and the lumpy fields and whatever. So yeah, that's a really good book. So it's called The Spinner's Book of Fleece, a breed by breed guide to choosing and spinning the perfect fibre for every purpose. So literally from lace knitting through to Aran weight jumpers. That is definitely a go-to if you don't want to go down that route. This is a bit more technically minded and will help you understand terminologies that you may be seeing people mention on Facebook groups. I mean, even if you don't use it yourself in principle, there are people out there that use it as a terminology and expect everybody else to know what it means. So it's nice to know just in the background that you've got a general idea of what it is that they're talking about if you want to go down that route. So that's definitely another one. So what else have I got? What else have I got? Now, this one is a spinner's guide book as well. It's a really popular book. It's been out for years. Yarnitecture. Now, I think this is one of them, I think it was the third book I'd managed to get out of everything that I, listen now, yeah, out of everything I started to buy on my reference book. Yarnitecture is a really good book. You can buy it anywhere. You can buy it online. You can easily get it second hand. I'm trying to think how much I paid for it. I think I paid about £24 for this. And I did buy it off of that online shop online, but I was only because my usual supply didn't have it in stock. So that's the reason why. So this one also includes designs in the back of it as well. So once you've already got past all your beginning spinnings and now you're trying to set yourself some challenges because you feel confident with what you're doing, then this is really the way you want to go. Yarnitecture. It is by, I'll find it in a minute, Gillian Moreno. Has been involved in crafting publishing for more than 20 years. At Interweave Press, she launched a magazine including Interweave Knits. She's also co-authored the two books, Big Girl Knits and More Big Girl Knits. And now she's #2 at thenitty.com, where other roles she's Queen of the Big Picture. So it showcases different designers from Kate Atherley, Adrian Brazilla, Julia Farewell Clay, Rosemary Hill, Bristol Ivy, Kirsten Kapoor, Amy King, Lauren Nelkin and Lynn Vogel, and they add in their own little different patterns in there as well. But again, this is another one which is good. As I say, you've already got yourself past that stage of, right, I've got it, I know what I'm doing, let's see how much I can get spun off. Or you've been spinning for like 3 or 4 months and you've got all these wheels lying around and you don't know what to do with them. So like it goes through questions like, one of them is, why am I spinning? That's always been my big question, the big perfect place to start. Here's a bunch of reasons that I might be spinning. Just to spin and relax. Sometimes I set myself a time each day just to spin at my wheel if I feel I haven't been spinning enough, or to unwind without having to. Or like without spinning because I have to. to learn something new, which is the majority of us feel like that, and some of us take it up, some of us don't. To practice the techniques from a class or a spin along with a class, to get to know a wheel, or to try a new setup. So like trying a new setup in the sense of changing over your wheel and your flyer to something you haven't tried before, and getting to know and understand what that wheel needs you to do for it, as in your different tension, the way that you're holding yourself, because sometimes even down to the way you hold yourself can affect the way that you spin. To experiment or to try it though, what if this comes up when I'm spinning, teaching or reading, and I need time and space to sort out ideas for a project I'm spinning, for a specific project or something general, like a sort of sweater. So there's loads of different reasons as to why you want to spin once you're spinning, but you don't always have to have something specific up there that you want to do. It might just be for practice because you like to, or you've been gifted a bat and you want to see, right, how much can I get out of this, and have I got anything in my stash, to sort of put them together and create some sort of project. So the sort of information that people always go on about is grists, or yards per round, or YPP. So your grist is a unit of measure combing the length and weight of a yarn. Its density expressed as yards per round. A unit of measure of number of rotation or twists per inch of yarn. So I'm trying to see if I've got anything now. Okay, we'll try this. So if I was to, just for sakes that this is a yarn, okay, and I'm just going to twist it around. And twist it around. So this is, it's called TPI, twists per inch. So if you've never heard of it before, imagine this is an inch. So on this inch I have got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 twists in the inch, and that is what they mean. It's as simple as that, but sometimes I don't know what it is or why they need to know that. I literally just spin because I know that I need 300 grams and I need at least 200 yards of each of them, and I need to get my backside in gear to spin it off. And that's it. But there are actually some type of technical knitting out there that you do need to know how many inches are, how many twists per inch, to find out the type of strength that you're going to have in the wheel. So there are reasons as to why, but I don't care. I don't care. But sometimes you need to know, especially if you're teaching. But hey, so like, why keep the advantage of keeping track. So it goes on about different types of methods that work. They have a low tech and unsexy, uses Ziploc bags to index their cards and little wristbands, and they'll just put little labels on top of the skein of yarn that they've spun up, and they'll keep that in a Ziploc bag just for their own, so they can see what yarns look like once it's spun up, and how stiff the yarn is. So say they wanted to try, hiya Daniela, if they wanted to get a yarn that was really quite stiff that they could use for maybe say a warp and a weaving. So maybe they want, say, 8 twists per inch in their yarn. Probably a bit excessive, but we're just for talking sake. So they'll spin off maybe 25 grams of that in that fibre and ply it up and everything else. And then they can see how long they need to be treadling for, the time it takes, the concentration they need to do. Are they already naturally spinning that to get that twist in there anyway? But then they can feel the density of the wool. Is it quite stiff, or is it quite flexible? So there are reasons as to why, and keeping a little mental diary of that. But then for me, that's going down the geeky route, and I try not fall down that geeky route too much, or I just become obsessed. So then they go on a bit more about drafting fibre in blends, Wensleydale, Yak and Romney, and how to do using your hand and just literally folding over the fibre over your hand for flyaway fibres like your alpacas, your llamas, your camel fibre, or camel top if you can get some, or the different ones. So you're literally drafting from the tip of your finger on a fold. So there's ways of doing that so all the fibres will catch in together, especially those fibres that don't have much crimp in them. What else? Spin your fibres. So, I mean, I've had a double of these as well. So, all of those yarns, that, those two up there have come from the exact same colourway. And these two have been knitted up, but these have been spun in slightly different ways and prepped in different ways to create these different effects on the knitting swatches. So I used to, in my descriptions when I put my bats on my website, give ideas to people of how they can prepare their bat or their roving to be able to get different techniques so that they could see themselves. But I end up giving up on that because I don't think people really that bothered what my opinion was. But sometimes I do it now and again. There's shawls in there, knitting patterns as well for shawls and jumpers and stuff like that. So this is more for your intermediate, going into I'm pretty confident and I want to explore a bit more now. So that's definitely a good book, Yarny Texture by Gillian Moreno. So definitely another one to have as a good book, just to have on your shelf, to sit and flick through on a rainy day, or as I say, when your internet's gone and you need something to reference. So there is an online course, which I'm going to go down that route one of these days. Dynamic colour blending and carding with Susie Brown. This lady. So you go and do a course, and you get go sign up for her course, and you can access it whenever you want. And she helps with blending. I like doing these sort of videos because it's the Will Witch. Is who it is. The Tiny Studios, and you'll ever see little bits of her videos online. Now, everybody does things differently from each other, and sometimes it's nice just to take a bit of time out doing something you love to do anyway, and just feel a little bit inspired by somebody else. And it's a bit like a busman's holiday, really. That's all it is. But you can see people do certain things in a different way, and you're like, oh, I'd never do that. Or I wouldn't mind trying that just to see what it looks like, but giving it my own twist. Adding different fibres to things. That's something I don't do a lot of. I have tried in the past. I've added Teeswater locks and Wensleydale locks and BFL locks to my bats, and I generally find that they don't sell. I've even drum carded 150 grams of locks, BFL locks and Wensleydale locks, and literally just combed out the tips and the ends and blended them into bats. And I've got a couple sat downstairs, and they've never ever sold, which is like a little bit infuriating for me. But I'm trying to do things that I expect that I thought that people might enjoy or might like to try, but they don't sell. It's like everybody wants to do their own thing. So I sometimes wonder what it is that is expected of me as a supplier. But yeah, so this one's real. This is good. Fibre goodness, dynamic colour and blending. She just helps to give ideas. I think of course it only cost me about £45, and I could go and access it any time I want, and go on there and just rejig. It would definitely be interested in the lock bats. Oh yeah, as I say, I do them now and again. I'll add locks into bats so you can have a textured yarn. I do them, and if they're mentioned in my descriptions, they're definitely in there. So yeah, this one, she goes into different techniques, different types of practicing with your drum carder, different types of speckling and splash and stuff like that. But the little book you have to buy separately, and you can get it on Amazon. That's where she sells them from. And then go and sign up for the course online. And it's like there's loads of videos in there that I haven't even touched on yet, and I keep meaning to. I'm just waiting for a day where Phil's actually at work for a full week. Alternatively, magazines are a good way to go. Now, I know that you can get the Ply magazine. I can't get a hold of it here in the UK, but you can buy the Ply magazine as a digital magazine. And the lady, you can actually find her on Instagram, and I would say at least once a week, she's up there doing these little mini clips for Ply magazine and different tips and tricks for spinning with. And I save all mine. I save whenever I catch one, I save it and put it to one side. Because it's nice to hear somebody explain something that you can explain, but using a different type of language to explain it, just their approach to it. So it helps me learn as well. This is one that I get in every so often. there's a magazine company online called Unique Magazines, who I originally started buying these from. Now I just order them straight from Weft Blown. So the Spin-Off magazine, brilliant little magazine. They are a little bit pricey. It is, I think I pay about 8-9 quid for the Spin-Off magazine. It might even be nearly a tenner, but round about that. So I think it usually costs me about £12 by the time I get it through my door. But they have loads of little tips and tricks. There's hand knitted socks from hand spun wool and your pattern, and they give you little tips in between it as well. So the Spin-Off magazine's a really good one. And Weft Blown, if they haven't sold them all, they've always got back issues. And they're different types of companies advertising as well, for spinning wheels, different measurements you can use, different orifice hooks and things like that. Advertising for new products coming on the market, like electric spinning wheels. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those ones. It's a magazine, but now and again it's got some really good ideas in there and projects that you can do, and history. I love history, but like this one, there's some decent articles in it. This one's about blanket weaving by the Songhees in central coast of Salish, and it's a painting, but it's telling their story about them weaving and how they did the weaving. Quebec wheel song. So mechanics made easy making friends with your wheel. So like when you're not quite sure what you're doing, or you start to fight with a wheel that you've never used before. Patterns to make covers for your hand carders. I know it's really silly, I know, but they don't come out that often, these magazines. They are seasonal. So I think it's usually every 3 months that you get a new magazine come out. And that's what I get these for. And this one, if I remember rightly, no, it might have been one of my other ones, my other spin-offs. It actually did a weaving pattern in it, which I hadn't done before. This one actually it did an article on onion skin dyeing as well, so you can have a go at home. Which, so you're like, look at that. I mean, that there is a knitted pattern, and all three of those, four of those colours have been made from onion skins. So sometimes it's worthwhile just even if you get one once or twice a year with a spare 10 quid that you've got in your back pocket. She says back pocket. How many people have got a spare tenner these days? But yeah, I do. I count this as a treat, to be fair. And this pattern on this, try and get light on there. This pattern here is the one that I did the other week on my old London Weave Master loom. That piece of cloth up here. Oh, nearly took my coffee out. Then I forgot my coffee was on the floor. So I wove this big length of fabric up, and this pattern comes from that Spin magazine. So the exact same pattern on my four-headed shuttle loom, four-headed shaft loom. So I spun that. I didn't spin that up, but I wove that up from a pattern out of a spinning book. I might even eventually spin up the stuff that I've got. Another magazine that I get, because I do weave with my hand woven fibres, is Hand Woven, from the exact same place again, Weft Blown, and this one's every 2 months it comes out. I've just ordered the next copy, the January-February one. So yeah, but I mean, it's handy just having little bits and pieces lying about the place. And if you find that you don't like the book after a couple of months, so you've barely looked at it, drink this coffee. I've got a coffee all over my flipping floor now. If you find that you don't really reference to those books that often, or you find another book that you feel more comfortable with, then there's nothing to stop you from selling it on Facebook and send it down to somebody that will get the use out of it. So yeah, that's just a few of my books. It ain't all of them, but as I go along, I'll pull out the books and get different parts of. There's a couple of books downstairs that are really handy for spinners, knit spin books and that sort of thing. But yeah, those ones are definitely worthwhile, especially those beginner spinners books. As I say, the yarn spinning book, this one there, as I say, it literally just kisses every topic that you need, from fleece to spinning up your yarn, just to get you to really quite savour the taste of, oh, that's really interesting, I wouldn't mind getting a bit further into that. And then that one I would definitely advise. It's a good one to have. Goes into a lot more detail, a lot more geeky information in there, but would help you if you go to guilds and you're just starting out. It will help you understand what people are talking about, to the point you might actually enjoy it, to be fair. Not me. So anyway, what time are we on? 22. So it must be gone 2 o'clock. I'm going to have to go downstairs and feed the animals in a minute. Oh dear. Bits and pieces I need to do. I just bought a load of new fabric for making some project bags. So yeah, I need to do that. I need to get in touch with the customer because she wants one for a friend. So I need to see what material she likes. So that's that today, I think. Now next week will be... Oh, next week is a video launch. Upload, sorry. So it will be plying on the spinning wheel next week. I'll see if I can fit plying on a drop spindle at the same time. All depends on what I've got to do. I do have to get some hand spun mini 30-gram balls quickly spun up today and get thrown in the post tomorrow for a pattern designer who wants to sample them for a pattern. So I'll see what I can get done. But it is plying next week, back to basics. I think we're on episode 4 next week. So I will see what I can do. If I can get both the drop spindling and the spinning wheel plying on the same video, I think that'll be absolutely perfect. Then I've killed 2 birds with 1 stone. And then after that, I can go into the basics of carding, your fibres as well. Because we sort of covered the blending board on my live chats. And I'll probably do a video on just blending board techniques to start with. But then I can cover them week by week as they go along and make me last a bit longer. Anyway, I'm off. Thank you ever so much. Sorry for the delay and lateness today. I've been very tardy. I'll be grounded and kept it after school today. I'm off. Take care of yourselves. I will be around for Instagram live chat on Saturday if you want to come over and join me there. If not, take care of yourselves. Be good. If you can't be good, don't get caught. Bye.